Welcome back to Guns Over Texas, Houston. Now that I've got that off my chest, we can get down to the show. What do you want to talk about today? Give us a call, 281-558-5738. That's 281-558-5738. I'm Jeff, and I'm here. I'm your resident gun nut. And joining me today, as usual, is Gary Montgomery, sitting in the Charter Arms revolver chair over there. Gary, say hi to Houston.
Folks.
And Mark McCoy. Mark, our producer. How you doing today, Mark?
Doing good. What's my chair's name?
The Texas Law Shield chair.
Okay, so I'm maintaining law and order here today.
What do you mean, what's its name? It's embroidered in there.
Just want to make sure. I want to make sure I have a chair with an official name.
That's right. It's already embroidered. I guess you didn't check it out.
Well, I can't see around you to the back of your chair.
Well, that one says the Brotherhood of the Spiral Tube.
Okay.
And Shiloh Shooting Range. Let's not leave the place we practice at.
There you go.
Yeah. So, Gary, you had the IDPA what was it? The regionals?
West Houston IDPA regional match. We had it's Labor Day match that's held every year. Sometimes it's held by the guys at Thunder, but this year it was held by West Houston IDPA.
And that's out at Impact Zone, right?
The Impact Zone.
And that's with Phil Oxley.
Phil Oxley.
Phil is a character.
Phil is a character, yes. That's about the cleanest thing we can say about Phil.
With the least amount of expletives.
Yeah.
So, Gary, you've been shooting IDPA for a long time.
Yeah.
How long have you been shooting IDPA?
IDPA I've been shooting off and on since probably 2001.
Okay, now for the listeners out there that have never shot IDPA before, what does IDPA stand for?
IDPA stands for the International Defensive Pistol Association. It is a genre of shooting that's very near and dear to those of us who carry guns, either professionally or for personal defense, because as civilians, we don't have very many venues where we can force ourselves to run the guns under pressure. It's one thing to say, okay, well, I've gone and gotten my CHL and say, okay, you fired your 50 rounds. Congratulations. You're armed, dangerous, and ready for action, which is, question number 2 on a test. And we tell people don't answer it that way. Invariably they do. But the thing is that just because you've taken that test and gotten that little piece of plastic doesn't mean you're actually ready to operate a firearm under pressure.
Have you not, during the qualifications, during CHL qualifications?
Yeah.
Have you seen some of the stupidest shooting that you've ever witnessed during those qualifications?
One of my mentors told a story of a lady stacking rounds into the magazine backward. And I thought no one could possibly be that stupid until I had it happen in my class.
Well, and then the H&K, Heckler and Koch,
yes,
they've got on front of their manual, they've got bullets loaded backwards.
Into
and
magazine. So, but the thing is that I went to tell the lady, I said, ma'am, that's not going to work. And she politely looks at me, and the funny thing is this happened in the other story I'd heard. And she goes, well, it's easier to put them in this way. And I was, well, yeah, I understand, but, the jerk repellent has to go forward, okay? It needs to be, flat to flat, and round part goes towards the idiot. Wait, the idiot's here, but
Now, do you think that the 50 shots that people have to take now during the CHL test, that's standing static,
right,
by yourself or with people
in good light,
in boxes next
in
to
a
you,
nice clean range,
exactly.
And, it's air conditioned. It's
20 shots at 9 feet, 20 shots, 21.
And the thing is that if you get all your hits at the first two, two stations, you're qualified. You can miss everything from there on out.
Now, do you think that the 50-round qualification test, do you think that means somebody is ready to carry their gun?
No, not even close. Because the thing is that it depends on who the instructor is. A lot of people run their classes differently. If you're in my class, you're going to have to load that firearm yourself. If you have a stoppage and you can't get that shot off in that period of time, you've lost that shot forever. Because I'm not going to be there to finish your gunfight for you.
You're not?
No. I mean, if I'm there, you're going to win. But, if I'm not there,
are you anyway?
Not the type to hold your hand. And so my thing is that you need to be able to operate that confidently. It's like driving. And this is the thing that I always tell people. When you're driving down the road, do you have to think about what it takes to turn the car on, get it into one gear or another, and steer it? The answer is no. It's all subconscious. You are unconsciously incompetent.
Unless you're a female driver.
Or just an idiot, okay? Because in Houston, how many people do we see they
I'm
can't drive,
tonight.
on sunny day, dry pavement. You add rain, and it's we're going to heck in a handbasket. So it's not good in that situation. So the same thing's true with firearms. if you have to think about what it takes to load the firearm, if you have to think about how to fix the firearm when it doesn't go bang, you don't have time to manage the 400-pound gorilla who's going to eat you for breakfast. Is the simplest way to look at it.
Could you be a little more descriptive?
Well, you don't have time to deal with me.
All right, so we've gotten off track just a little bit talking about the qualifications.
Yeah.
The qualifications are something that really drives me nuts.
Right.
Because I've seen so many people that have gone through that, and they are not qualified.
Right.
And yet they think that, well, they passed that test, they are the end all.
Right.
Now,
And that's kind of the whole point of IDPA is that we're giving you a place where we're going to introduce you to shooting in situations that you might not have thought about.
so regular people, somebody that
Regular
just passed
people.
their CHL,
Correct.
can come on out
Yeah.
and do this.
And the thing is, we tell everybody to check their ego at the door. No one's born shooting. So we're going to point and laugh at you, but we want you to have a good time. But there's also a deadly serious component to it in that we are teaching you the mechanics of running the gun. Now, that said, there are things that we do in IDPA because it is still just a game that are not conducive to defense. And so that's why we would still say, go to Shiloh and get a class, get in with Brian Hoffner or John Farnham or Paul Howe or whomever.
Donovan Lamar,
Yeah.
he's a good
Yeah.
one at Guardian
Yeah.
Defensive
Exactly.
Solutions out of Hot Wells.
And so, get into one of those classes to study defense tactics, but for the mechanics of running the gun and learning to shoot at speed under pressure, IDPA and USPSA, or United States Practical Shooting Association, are two of the few venues where we can do that. I love the NRA. The NRA is a great organization, but the traditional NRA style of shooting, of standing on a line at 50 yards with one hand out, which is cavalry-type shooting, at a static can that's 50 yards away and not doing anything, is not what happens in defensive shooting. In defensive shooting, it may be down and dirty, hair, teeth, and eyeballs, up close and personal, and it happens in a fraction of a second.
Normally within 7 feet, and
Right.
it takes less
Yeah.
than a couple seconds
Yeah.
for everything to happen
Exactly.
from start to finish.
I mean, you're looking at the fight will be won or lost in a quarter second or less.
Now, do women come out and shoot this?
Sure. Yeah. Actually, at the regional match, there were 7. I mean, sometimes there were more, but at this particular match, there were 7 women that I remember shooting. Some of them shot quite well, and there were some who, they were shooting as bad as some of the guys.
Now, shooters are a very open group of people. That's, I've noticed that a lot of people who just get into the shooting industry, they may think that, oh gosh, I don't want to go do that. I'm intimidated.
Right.
These people, they've been shooting they're gun people, for gosh sakes.
Yeah. No, an armed society is a polite society.
Exactly.
I firmly believe that. That's one of the things that's kept me in the sport all this year. I mean, I started shooting when I was 14 years old because I discovered football was dangerous. Okay. The worst injury I've ever seen at a shooting match. I mean, there have been very, very rare incidents where someone was really stupid and did something really bad at the same time, and they got hurt. But otherwise, generally, the worst thing I've seen is someone, sprain an ankle stepping off of a podium after taking a trophy. I'm not going to sit here and say that's a quote unquote safe sport. We're dealing with dangerous tools. But it's no more dangerous than 2 guys who weigh 250 pounds colliding with each other at a combined speed of 30 miles an hour. That's a traffic accident, folks. Okay? Yeah. There are broken bones and people die.
People say it's dangerous. Shooting guns is dangerous.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know about you, but every day I drive on 1960, and that's far more dangerous than going to an IDPA match.
And the thing is that it is a lot of fun. It's definitely a family sport. As I've said before, all the egos and the issues, that kind of stops when that first bullet goes down range, because it doesn't matter who you say you are. You either got it or you don't. Okay, you can't fake it. And
I mean the guy in his ninja outfit.
Yeah. Those the mall
super
ninjas
speed.
don't last long. They're going to get laughed out of the range. Don't show up in your fatigues and your BDUs and what your battle dress uniform, as they say. Don't show up in that kind of stuff. Don't show up looking like Rambo. Show up like you're going to the mall. Hell, wear your suit. We actually used to have a guy at a club match that he dressed in a suit all the time. In fact, Mike, the limo guy.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, Mike would show up in his suit just like he's driving his limos. To
his IDPA matches.
Shoot with us doing an IDPA match.
I think that's fantastic, because that's his everyday
Exactly.
gear. That's what he wears all the time.
And that is what has gotten so many people in the IDPA compared to USPSA. Because back when I was in USPSA as a kid, Part of the thing that got a lot of people out of that is that you were seeing $10,000 race guns.
Yeah.
And custom ammunition. You're burning $7-8, per match on each magazine spring because you're having to tune them and do all this weird stuff.
And you're having to shoot against guys with the red dot sight, the war laser, the laser grip.
Exactly. But to its credit, you had the opportunity in those big matches particularly to shoot against guys who were nationally ranked or even internationally ranked shooters. And that's in all the shooting sports. And the cool thing is that if they noticed something that was going to give you, one little piece of advice that would help push you over the edge, they were willing to give that to you.
How good do you have to be successful in an IDPA match? To be competitive? To be competitive,
really, the thing is that it's split up. So if you are what we call a novice-level shooter, you're only shooting against other novices. If you bust your class, then you'll move up to shooting against marksmen. Okay, and then you've got marksmen, you'll shoot against other marksmen. If you eventually get good enough to outshoot all the marksmen, now you're shooting against sharpshooters. Get enough, you get past that, you start shooting against experts, and then finally get up to master class. Master class is truly, that is the Tiger Woods of the shooting world. What those guys do, those are people like Dave Savigny at Glock, okay, or Rob Latham over at Springfield. These are guys that they only need to see just fractions of a target, and they're making decisions in a tenth of a second. But
Mark and I got to interview Dave Savigny at the SHOT Show this past year.
Yeah,
and he was one of the nicest guys I think I've ever met. And I asked him what a standard day of him shooting, how much ammo he'd burn through, and he said, not much, somewhere between 3,000 and 4,000 rounds a day.
Man, it's nice to work for Glock.
Yeah, he's getting paid to do that, and plus he had an ammunition sponsor, so he's not paying for any of the ammunition.
Yeah, and that's a pretty rare person in this sport. Most people are doing it on their own dime.
Most shooters I've found are very humble, very good people, and they're so willing to help.
Right.
Because and especially take the new guy or the new gal off to the side and help them personally.
Right.
Because you know what? If you screw up, you endanger everybody out there, not just the person holding the gun.
Right. And that's
this is Guns Over Texas. Our telephone number is 281-558-5738. That's 281-558-5738. Gary Montgomery is our competitive shooter, our IDPA competitive shooter. Jeff is the resident gun nut. Are you ready for some competitive shooting? Are you interested in taking this a step further? Are you interested in putting your skills to the test? You got some questions maybe about how to do that. Gary Montgomery is your guy. He's here. He's at your service today. Phone line's open for you, 281-558-5738. What are you shooting now? What are you carrying concealed? What's your backup? What do you have your eye on that you'd like a second opinion on? Get on the phones today, 281-558-5738. Back with your calls coming up next. This is Guns Over Texas.